Aloha, it's Dave Lawrence. How you doing? A big mahalo for tuning in. I hope you're doing good. And we have a very special guest joining us today. He's calling in ahead of a show February 21st, Waterfront at Aloha Tower. And they're a band with roots in Colorado, very much local heroes there. Their website shows a fun interaction with the governor of Colorado at a recent inaugural ball they were part of. Some of their catchy hits have gotten a ton of airplay locally. And the guy we're speaking with has an unusual musical background with years abroad studying music as a kid. I'll be fascinated to hear about that, plus his personal journey of growth as an emerging artist in the contemporary music world. It's my great pleasure to welcome for a conversation OneRepublic guitarist, vocalist, songwriter Zach Filkins. Aloha and mahalo, brother Zach.
Aloha, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for taking a couple minutes for me, dude.
Sure, of course.
We appreciate it.
That's the first anyone's ever said aloha.
Well,
oh, man.
I'm glad to throw some your way, my brother. And before we start talking about your music, how much experience from our first interactions prior to the interview? It sounded like you have no experience with Hawaii.
No, you're right. I have zero experience. Our manager actually comes out there a lot for vacation. So I'm at the moment picking his brain about what I should do and where I should go, and I think a couple of other guys have been for vacation as well. But I have, for one, have always wanted to go and have never been able to for one reason or another. So this is one of those chances where you get to work, but at the same time you're going to a place that you've always wanted to go.
How often? I'm curious about that. How you describe that? It's one of those you still have the you still look at it like it's a novelty sort of experience. How many times does that happen? What are other places you've gotten to go to perform that you look back on and be like, man, I'm so stoked we got to play there?
Well, yeah, man, we pinch ourselves a lot. Usually when we're in Paris, we kind of freak out because we'll rent scooters and just go and destroy the city in a good way, obviously. That's one of our favorite things to do. South Africa was incredible. We were down there a couple years ago. We went down to Cape Town and we went swimming with sharks and all kinds of stuff. And usually anytime we can go to a city that we've never been to before, or obviously, we're lucky enough to go to a lot of vacation destinations and play a show. And it's funny because I always tell people that people are like, oh, what's your schedule like? What are you doing? I'm like, got to go to Hawaii for a few days. Oh, you got to go. Oh, okay. I get a lot of smart comments, especially I'm actually in the Chicago area, and everyone here is sick of the winter, and so they don't feel bad for me at all that I have to go to Hawaii.
Yeah, you don't get much sympathy saying, "Oh, dude, I can't do that right now because I have to go to Hawaii, but I'll try to get to that when I get back."
Yeah, exactly. I'll help you shuffle your driveway later.
Are there, for fans who are going to be seeing you guys, and I meant that in the intro, the amount of airplay, at least a couple of years ago, you were getting here was in line, I'm sure, with the highest airplay you were getting anywhere. This market has a penchant and a long love for pop that's done well, great songwriting. For fans who here in the islands who have never seen you, try to paint a picture, if you will. Describe the show. What's in store?
Definitely, first off, so for some reason, as much touring as we've done, we are not tired of playing our songs at all. So everything, it's like new. Every time we play for a different crowd, different audience, it's new for us. And so we usually just completely unload all energy on the stage, especially Ryan. Ryan has turned into a very charismatic lead singer. And he kind of goes all over the stage and sometimes into the crowd. But for us, it's really, we're still very much believers of our own music, and extremely thankful for everywhere we get to go. And I think that shows up on stage when we're playing. Just the honor that we have to play. And that we get to tour and do this for a living is honestly, it's the most fun that we've ever had. So the music is more alive when we play than on the album. We try to either make it sound as good or beat it every time we play, and that's kind of it. And we also switch instruments a lot, so that's kind of something to watch, because we're very much about performing as much of it as possible live, and we want to be very genuine and play everything as well as we possibly can.
A couple great things you said there. Let's talk about the sequencing aspect of it. How much of the show is sequenced or run on tracks?
Very minimal. The only thing that we do is if any song requires like kind of a low droning tone or something, just for emotional feel. That's kind of it. Other than that, we just want to play it all live, and we're lucky enough to have a classically trained cello player in the band, which is Brent. So when he's not playing bass, he's playing cello, and so he can really reproduce all the string parts. Like for songs like Secrets, it's very string orchestral oriented, and he can pull that off perfectly. So for us, it's a big deal to not. Obviously, a lot of bands play with tracks, and it should only be for, in my mind, it should only be for a subtle sort of backing up of what you're doing on stage, and that's about it.
Yeah, I agree. It should totally be filler. The way you've described it, I couldn't agree with more. So what you're saying is it's basically used for almost like monotonal sort of qualities. It's not used for any of the rhythmic instruments that people are going to hear, and it has very little place whatsoever. So not even there's no real backing tracks.
Of course, yeah. What people hear is what we're doing. We make that we want to make that really, as honest and genuine as possible.
That's awesome. That's very cool. That's good to hear. And also, it's nice to hear. I talk to a lot of older guys who've been doing this a long time, and I like doing that. It's a lot of fun to get to pick their brains. But there's something about the freshness and enthusiasm, the way you were just talking, the way you're grateful, the humility about being able to do this for a living, the novelty of your very life. It sounds like has not been lost on you, and kudos for keeping that. I hope you can always keep that. It's hard to, because I know that myself, and it's easy to forget about that, and it becomes like a routine. There's a guy out here from Hawaii, and he's Jack Johnson. Are you a fan of his at all?
Oh yeah, definitely. He's he's made a definite movement across the world, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, amazing. Guy's from the North Shore of Oahu, and he's really become, our own Jack Johnson from Hawaii, gone, or as you just said, taking it to the world. When I hear your song, Everybody Loves Me, I don't know, Zach, I just could hear him either sitting in with you on it or his band just ripping that thing.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. You're the first to have said that. And it is interesting that song does have kind of like the gutsy rootsiness of just like a dirty acoustic guitar and just kind of like going for it. That's interesting. I've never heard that before. That song actually came about from going to the studio in Cape Town, or no, not Cape Town. I'm sorry, Johannesburg. We went to the studio there and just tried to see what would happen, and Ryan started just kind of drumming on some African drums, and Brent was playing like an acoustic line, that acoustic guitar line, and that's really where it started from. And that's, I guess it's very similar to Jack Johnson in the sense that for him, he really has that kind of like stripped down acoustic feel, but yet he's doing it in such a different way, you know what I mean?
And very much taking it to a poppy kind of audience like you guys. I mean, he's reaching a lot of people, but he's doing it with excellent structure and melody and stuff. I just could hear him with you. It just sounded to me like there'd be some synergy.
Sure. Well, I mean, if you have his phone number, let's give him a call, right?
Get him down to the gig. And finally, on the local note, before we get into your unique musical background as a guitar player, are there any sort of, and just as a songwriter and the kind of musician that you are there any local kinds of guitar or any music from the islands, pedal steel, ukulele, anything like that has been a part of your life or that you care about?
That's actually a good question. I will say that the ukulele is obviously a really cool instrument. I think it's interesting how it's kind of made that instrument in and of itself has made a resurgence into popular music, and it's interesting to me. I've always watched. I've always been interested in different trends in the music industry, and And I remember when I was in high school, there was a slight trend of bringing just a little bit of an influence of Celtic music into certain things. And like now, like the ukulele's kind of been in different songs. I think it's cool, actually. I think it's cool. It's never an instrument that I've picked up myself, but I like how people are doing it now. I definitely think it's got a really cool place in music right now.
Well, that'll be a great racket. I'll just give you a little tip. You figure out a way to work one of those babies into a tune at the show, you're going to get a huge response out of the crowd.
Well, it's funny, actually. We go to Germany quite a bit. We're very lucky enough to be well received in Germany, and so we go to Germany probably every 2 months. And
Wow.
me and Ryan went and did a radio interview there, and it with a guy and a girl were kind of like doing this. They're doing this radio thing. He whips out a ukulele, and Ryan and I look at each other like, what is this German doing with an ukulele? And he starts jamming "Apologize" on it and asking us to sing along with him. And honestly, it sounded really cool. But it was unexpected to have, a guy named Hans or whatever pull out a ukulele and play "Apologize" for me.
So incongruous, but I'm thinking he set the stage, dude. I would take what he did and run with it.
All right, I think I might actually.
I mean, people. I mean, it'll be huge. It'll be a huge moment. You got to have fun like that, and it sounds like you like to have fun. So, well, very good. I'm glad we seeded that. You ever hear that tune on the radio, that "Over the Rainbow" with the ukulele, Brother Is?
Yes, definitely. It's awesome.
Yeah, that dude came from here too, and I mean, it's weird because he's passed away, and now the song's like larger than life. So you have this story I'm real curious about. What's the back line to how you, according to what I've read, ended up spending years in Spain as a kid, and while there, studying guitar?
Yeah, I moved there when I was 7 years old with my family because my dad, he went from being a pastor in the Chicagoland area to missionary in Barcelona, Spain, in a small Bible school just south of Barcelona. So 7 years old, we picked up and moved. And, the two instruments, obviously, I'd always been into. Every guy wants to play drums. I mean, no matter who you are, I think every guy has, like, the desire to play drums in him somewhere. Aside from that was guitar. And at age probably 8.5, my parents were like, well, do you want to start any sort of musical lessons, because I was really enjoying music. And I said guitar. But when I said guitar, I was thinking more like loud, crazy, electric, just off-the-wall, super noisy guitar. When I said guitar to my parents, they thought, oh, Spanish, which is really nice and quiet and beautiful. So obviously they were the ones footing the bill for the lessons, so they won. So I ended up taking classical Spanish guitar lessons for the next 5 years. Never even got to play electric really until I got into OneRepublic. So this for me is kind of a childhood dream that I had to wait a long time to actually fulfill. But that's how it started, and I'm actually really thankful that I was able to do it that way. I've now developed a real passion for Spanish. Particularly Spanish flamenco music is just so passionate and just kind of it's a blend of all the emotions, which I think the best music in my mind is music that will capture kind of a collection of emotions or sort of a progression of emotions. And I think that's really good songwriting when you can sort of like pull someone into that random emotions and feels. And so I don't know, it's kind of what it is. Every guitarist has a different background, and that's mine, and there's pros and cons to it, and that's that's kind of what it is.
And you speak the language fluently, I understand?
Yeah, it's still there. Obviously, every time we go back to Spain, I expect it to be just as fluent as I was before, and sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But I definitely still speak it, and anytime I have the chance, I will definitely take the opportunity to speak it because it's again a gift that my parents gave me and my sister without us knowing. At age 7, it was very easy to learn another language because you're just young, so you just take it in.
Oh, it's a huge gift, and you're totally right. When that's what I always tell my brother with his kid, and I wish I had that opportunity. When you get older, you can still do it, but it's not as easy to be multilingual. And your parents are huge for having done that. I totally concur with it being a great gift. Do you think? Do you find like a difference in people who are multilingual versus people who are not? Is there anything that really sticks out to you?
Yeah, I think people that are multilingual, especially if they are multilingual because they have lived in the other country, whatever country corresponds to their languages, I think they automatically have kind of a firmer understanding, a little more of a real life understanding of the world in a sense. It gives you just kind of a picture of what the actual community of humans, as you say, is, you know what I mean, across the planet, not just whatever town that you live in particularly. So I definitely think that's probably the biggest benefit is being able to understand different cultures and to see that in a different viewpoint.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, living here in Hawaii, there's all kinds of people speaking stuff. I got this friend works at the station, Lillian. She and I be talking like you and I, and then all of a sudden, if somebody calls her, she's busting into Chinese or whatever. So, and I wonder how that affects thinking. Like you said, it gives you a more you said it well-rounded view of the world. You talked a little bit about how you think that you were influenced and some of the ways that your early exposure to music and this routine from your parents may have helped out. Are there any other ways that you think this early structured practice and lesson routine that they got you into has impacted your day-to-day role in OneRepublic? Meaning, are you more organized? Do you see yourself differently than other musicians who kind of just throw their stuff together? They don't have the regimen that you have.
That's actually a really good question. I think what it ends up giving you is like you said, kind of a discipline for learning what you need to learn in order to be the best. And what I mean by that, obviously very humbly, but songwriting is an art form. It's something to study. And I for one, along with I'm sure many others have thought, you get into a writing session or get in the studio and you try to just come up with whatever sounds the coolest to you, and you go with it. And yeah, sometimes songs come out that way, but songwriting is something to learn, just like how to play the guitar, just like how to play the piano. Songwriting is its own separate entity, its own separate instrument, and I think it must be learned. I think it's something that you have to really study. You have to try a lot, fail a lot, in order to get it right. And ultimately, if you want to be successful in the industry, you have to understand how that whole art form works within the context of each separate instrument. And so, if anything, that's probably the best benefit to learning a discipline is that you can't just do whatever comes out of your head without any discipline, because it's going to end up being slightly one-dimensional and also slightly selfish. It's just what you want to hear. And I think if you combine the creativity and the spontaneity of ad-libbing and musical freedom with the discipline, then you're gonna. I mean, that's a great recipe. You're gonna end up coming up with some crazy stuff.
That was the word I had been struggling for as I set out the question, discipline. So yeah, you totally filled in the blank on that one. I appreciate it, dude. Thinking of that, what was your role in writing Apologize? What did you bring to the table on that? Who did what with the creative origins of the song?
Man, actually, I mean, honestly, Apologize was one of those moments of genius that Ryan had all by himself in Colorado Springs in his dad's house. He sat down with the piano. And his dad's house has like a great view of the city. It's up on the side of a mountain in a small town called Manitou Springs. It's just right next to Colorado Springs. So Ryan went up and sat down at the piano, looked out the window, and somehow started forming the song Apologize, and then went into his own little studio there started putting it all together. Ironically, the beat was one of those accidents that turned into like the actual beat of the song, because he didn't know how to really set up much of a what we call a click track, which is just a track to keep you in tempo. It's usually something that you end up scrapping at the end of the song because you don't want anyone to listen to, like, you know, click, click, click. But instead of a click track, he just set up this real simple beat to keep him in time, and that's what ended up turning into the beat of the actual song. So by the time I heard it, you know, this is before we even moved to L.A. We were in Colorado Springs, and you know, he was like, dude, listen to some of this stuff. So he played me some demos that he was putting together. He goes, I think this is kind of a OneRepublic sound. Then he put in Apologize, and he had everything fleshed out. He had the drums, guitar, everything. He had just done it all himself, and I was like, dude, this is the song. This is the song. I can't wait to play this. So honestly, I mean, the only involvement I had of that is recording, you know, my parts in the studio when we recorded everything for Dreaming Out Loud. But other than that, he had it all set up, and it was everything was in its right place. It's a simple song. You can't overdo it. You can't overcomplicate it. It's just, it is what it is, and you know, it's a great song.
That's huge. That's a great story. You told it well. In there, I get this when I go to your website, Zach. I see that clip you guys have from the local TV station, and it shows you guys hanging with the governor at the inaugural ball and stuff. And the TV station talks about you guys with such a sense of pride. So I wonder how local. And then you just mentioned the moving to L.A. and I know everybody really lives in L.A. who's in the business. How local is the band to Colorado these days? We're tied into Colorado for sure. It's kind of where we started. Ironically, the only reason why we moved to LA is because we thought, well, you can't really make it out of Denver, so you have to move to either New York or LA. We Right.
have near enough money to live in New York, so let's move to LA, and that was our thought process. And ironically, you know, while we were in LA, a great band called The Fray, they made it out of Denver. They didn't move. They just stayed right in Denver, and you know, they were able to make things happen before we were. So we kind of learned that lesson the hard way. And so yeah, Colorado is, you know, a lot of the guys went running back to Colorado once we didn't have to live in LA. Things were successful enough that we didn't have to be located there. You know, everyone just scrammed, and it's just you have to live where you feel most inspired, where you feel most at home. And when you're not, you know, and God knows that we have lived in a lot of different places, you know, between us five guys. We've all been in a lot of places that we have not wanted to be. So once you find and you're lucky enough to live where you do want to live and where you're inspired, it's a huge gift.
Yeah, man, no doubt. So that everybody is back in Colorado.
Well, just about everybody, but after saying all that, my wife and I are based out of Chicago because that's kind of our home. So we're actually the black sheep. I mean, I love Colorado, you know, and I definitely like, you know, any chance I can get to go skiing or snowboarding, then I do. But for my wife and I, Chicago's always been our place. That's always been like, as soon as we can leave LA, we're going back to Chicago.
Nice. Well, very good. I'm glad to hear that you know, I was curious just because the TV, they made it sound like you guys are right there in the community, and that's nice that you've kept your roots. They're very proud of you, and I understand why they would be. Finally, when you're out here, dude, if there's just any way to touch base with you, it'd be great to maybe record a short in-person interview if there's time for it.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool. We should definitely set it up in between, like, tanning sessions or something.
And I really do appreciate your time, Zach.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thank you very much. Hopefully we'll see you in a few.
You're the man. Thanks, Brother Zach. I'll reach out to your people. Have a good rest of your day, and I hope this wasn't too much of a pain in the ass. I really enjoyed speaking with you.
Not at all, man. This was great. I liked it a lot, too, actually.
Be safe, bro.
All right, you too.
Aloha.
Aloha. This is Zach Filkins from the band OneRepublic, and you're cruising with the only show that matters with my friend, Dave Lawrence. Aloha. This is Zach Filkins from OneRepublic, and I am enjoying that magical time of day with my friend Dave Lawrence. Brother Dave, have a happy 420.